Glenn, will anything happen to Fauci?
Yes.
Please.
And I did not believe this. I mean, a year into it, I did a two-night special on just the stuff that we could find in public spaces that showed the smoking guns everywhere. Now we have the actual data. Now we have a preponderance of evidence, and he's backdated it to 2014 for very specific reasons. This guy has been breaking the law and becoming his own god, and he has to go to jail. And I never thought he would, but under Trump, it's not going to be vengeance. It's not going to be, repaying his enemies. They are looking for the truth between Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Bhattacharya. They're going to unravel this thing, and he's going to jail. And it will be because of the states. They have a right and a duty to do it.
Okay, here we are. After the high suspense of a little bit of an extra weight that I was not... oh, whoops, I forgot to change. I have a new intro theme. Well, you guys want to see it? Hold on, let me see. I can actually just bring that up if you want. I'm actually pretty proud of it, so I want to play it anyway. Let's see, hold on a second. Oh, you know what? Well, I could do it this way. Hold on. Let's see if I can... Here, let me just do it the opposite way, and then we'll just be prepared for that tomorrow. I had to switch a few things around before I started today, so I forgot about that one. But let me see. Hold on. Oh, that reminds me, too. Hang on. Yeah, it is. The green screen's a little too overly selective in picking what it's going to fade, because the mic is, as you can see, the mic is not even solid. It's pretty transparent. So, hang on just a second. Where are we on? What is it? It would be. Oh yeah, it's my camera. Okay. Oh, stop hitting the mic. Okay. There we go. God, geez. Okay, back up a little bit. There we go. Okay, now we're better. Key color. Let's see. Oh, yeah. It's a similarity. That's what we're looking for. No. Other way. There we go. I just see what it looks like when I fix it on screen. Okay. Let's see. Just a second. There we go. Okay, I think we're good now. All right, close that. Yeah, much better. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. I should have done this beforehand, but I didn't have it really... I'm starting late enough as it is, and I was kind of trying to rush to finish the last couple of things because... oh, my Lord. There is a huge, gigantic dump of information going on everywhere. You got the Democrats basically with a new... reason to freak out every single day, and as I was trying to mention before I fell asleep on the last episode, they are seeming quite insurrection-y to me. I don't know. Maybe you guys are picking up a different vibe, but I'm sensing some steps that seem quite borderline on the level of I don't know something that I would say is a little, insurrection-y to the point of, overthrowing government agencies, I guess. I mean, maybe not the Congress, but the Congress is the one that's behind the insurrection. So, I mean, I don't know. Or the maybe insurrection, who knows? By their own words, if it was, I'll just say this, if the shoe was on the other foot, it most certainly would be It would be talk of insurrection 2.0 or something like that, some ridiculous nonsense. But because they're doing it, and because it's for our own good, which I swear I'm gonna address this today. If there's one thing you need to take away from not just this episode, but remember this every time you hear Democrats at this point in time, while they're still freaking out about Trump, remember this. Every time they say something about your hard-earned tax money going to something that it shouldn't be going to, first off, remember this. It was them that spent the money in that place. That's first off. They're the ones that basically had the control over this for the time period. And you want proof, look at what it went to. I don't think Republicans would be funding drag operas in different parts of Northern Europe or trans comic books in Brazil. I don't think that would be the Republican agenda. So, yes, it was the left that was in charge of spending all of this money, number one. And number two, they were the ones that are getting upset now that it's being exposed. So if you didn't know your money was going to this and you don't want your money going to this, to blame that on Elon Musk and Donald Trump for being the messengers is the most pathetic attempt. But that's why they do it, because nobody knows any better. And look, I'm not trying to insult anybody. This is not a knock on anybody. I get people's lives are very busy and they don't have time to consume news like some nerd like me that has a bunch of time to watch all this stuff. But this was a step too far when I was watching this. I was disgusted by this. This is insane. This is ridiculous. And it's pretty pathetic. But I think to even some people in my family who have no idea what's going on at these deeper levels, and they hear a statement from someone with some degree of authority that would have actually, been trustworthy maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe a little bit more trustworthy at least. And they just are like, well, yeah, that's somebody from a position of authority that's telling me that's the case. They wouldn't lie about something like that. Oh, yes, they would. Oh, they would. And they have been, and they will continue to. That's the part that I'm trying to make sure that everybody is well aware of by the end of today's episode. This is all by design. It's all done because, it's been planned well in advance. And it's also been planned well in advance because I've explained this before, although this was in earlier episodes, so I'm going to have to rehash all this stuff again, but it's fine. We'll go over it again. The Democrats are hive-minded. I was very firmly left when I was younger, obviously. Everybody was usually kind of more leaning left or pretty firmly left when they're in their teenage years, young adult years. Coincidentally, I was growing up as a young adult when the Iraq War just started. That was when I was in college, so I was a big anti-war guy. I was a big pro free speech guy. I was very much against the Patriot Act. I was very much against the Iraq War. I was against the Afghanistan War. I was like everyone upset about 9/11, but I was questioning what we were actually doing, especially when, it kind of became apparent that they took such a long time to actually even get to Afghanistan, where, that was the idea and the intel and what everyone was talking about, that they knew bin Laden was supposedly in Afghanistan. That was where he was. And instead of just, heading there immediately, they took their time, they announced it, they waited, they finally went. By then, he was long gone. They eventually caught him, but the interesting part is they actually caught Saddam Hussein before they caught Osama bin Laden. And I think it was almost more surprise when they finally did catch Osama bin Laden. Because it was like, wow, they were actually even still looking for him. But it always seemed very strange to me how the Bushes and both of their administrations had been so anti-Saddam and so focused on Saddam. Not that Saddam was a good guy or anything, but why this hyper focus on Saddam Hussein? Especially when, as we know now, they were the counterbalance to Iran and the two competing denominations of Islam that were kind of both terror organizations, but essentially rival terror organizations that were at each other's throats constantly. And when we took out Saddam, that was like, oh, okay, great. Now Iran can run wild in the Middle East, and they can attempt to get nuclear weapons and send out, Hezbollah and Hamas and all the other radical, lunatic Islamic jihadists to murder innocent people everywhere. But the point is that I questioned the whole strategy. I didn't like it. Now, now it's kind of crazy. I mean, the politicians are one thing, but most conservative people and most conservative, most noteworthy conservative ideological voices and shows and things like that are all very anti-war. They're all very anti-censorship, anti-spying, police state, anti-overreach by federal agencies. Much less concerned about foreign nations and much more concerned about domestic issues. So, like, all the things that were once. This is why you see people like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard under a Trump administration, who, by the way, I know Tulsi got confirmed. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Tulsi got confirmed. That Mitch McConnell was not happy about it, but fuck him. Who cares? And I heard Robert Kennedy was confirmed as well. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I heard he was confirmed. So that leaves just one left, which is, this is the big one, and this one really, it needs to be done. It has to be done. Kash Patel has to be the FBI director. There's no way in hell that the agenda is going to be successful unless Kash Patel gets across the finish line. I don't think there's going to be as much trouble with him for the Republican side in this case, as much as someone like Tulsi Gabbard or RFK Jr. or even Pete Hegseth, for example. But still, this one's going to be down to the wire, and more than anything else, because of people like, what are we talking about this guy today? Adam Schiff and Dick the douche Durbin. And the most egregiously pompous, arrogant, and propagandist members of the Democrat Party, which particularly for the state that I live in California. Luckily, I don't live in the part of California that would be represented by the scumbag. But you guys, how do you do? I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I know Steve Garvey might not have been your ideal candidate. I know there are things that you probably didn't like about him. But to vote for a guy and reward him for lying to you for 4 straight years about Russian collusion and just blasting it everywhere that would listen to this son of a bitch, allowing him to get away with this scot-free, even better, to allow him to get a promotion, have him go from the House to the Senate. How the I mean, I hope you enjoy the guy. I hope he I hope he does what you want, because he's not going to give a shit about your calls. He's not going to give a shit about what you think. He's not going to give a shit about you, to be honest. He's already shown what he's interested in. He's gone batshit crazy every time Trump's name comes up. Anytime one of his nominees is up for approval, he's become an unhinged lunatic. And we'll be going over some of that today, too. But we'll also be the counterweight to that because, we'll have some fun. We'll have a fun trip down memory lane with some of Adam Schiff's greatest hits in Congress as far as some of the impact he made as he was the chairman of the Intel Committee. But that's only part of it. As I was saying before, I really want people to understand that when these things happen, as far as these public stunts, like what happened just recently at the USAID office, which, by the way, if you're saying USAID, that's not what the office is called. It's like the US... what's the A for? I know ID is infrastructure development. United States... something. Anyway, it's about helping foreign nations that we're supposed to be helping friendly nations with infrastructure development and to stabilize areas that might be in turmoil due to poverty or to bad GDP or whatever. And as I was mentioning early on about our tax dollars, that was the goal. But now it's going to a very different sort of cause. So, yeah, and like I said, we'll be going over in detail today, because when these people are talking about how we can't let Donald Trump get away with giving your money away to others, Donald Trump is not the one, nor is Elon Musk, nor is anyone on Trump's administration. None of them made the decisions to send money to foreign nations like African nations to push transgender surgeries. Sorry, I don't think that was the Trump administration. So when they say that, it is the most hollow, ridiculous bullshit. If there's any party that is taking your tax money and putting it to a cause that you probably don't agree with, it's not Trump's cabinet. It's not Trump's cabinet. It's not Trump's party. It's not the Republicans in Congress or the Senate, as much as I actually really don't like a lot of them. It's not them. It's definitely not them. They might do their own stupid thing. Hold on, I gotta raise this chair up. There we go. Okay, much better. I also got something behind me. Hold on a second. And you might detect a little bit more anger in my voice today, and that's true. It got me really frustrated when I was listening to this, to be honest, because like I said, they only say this stuff, and believe me, it's not just them. It's legacy media that takes this message and just repeats it, and they're good little stooges in places like basically bureaucracies, like let's say. Well, how about the one of the examples we'll be getting to first? Campaign strategists, one of the most useless freaking careers I've ever heard in my life. Campaign strategists, good Lord. How about you just strategize about your own damn campaign, for fuck's sake? Instead of spending, millions and millions of dollars giving it to some dork who has no idea how to communicate with anybody. Well, I guess it's because they don't know how to communicate with anybody, so they got to hire somebody else to do it for them. This is just welcome to modern era. But anyway, that's the main subjects we'll be going over today. I've had a number of things I've wanted to go over, but we'll be saving a lot of that stuff for later, because this is just too much of an important area. We got to go over it. So why don't we start with let's see. I don't want to waste a bunch of time with nothing. So let's just start off with, Oh, I need to do that too. Well, I'll do that when we're doing a clip. Let's see. So, where are my clips? I think we'll start with, well, yeah, here's an idea. Why don't we start with a reminder? Let's start with it. Let's start with a public service announcement of a refresher, if you will. of Adam Schiff's sequence of long-running accusations with no basis whatsoever, except for a Russian spy that was hired by Hillary Clinton's campaign to write some sort of dirt about Donald Trump, and who cares if it's true or not, which gave birth to the Steele dossier, which was so important and so pivotal in proving how Donald Trump was corrupt and he was going to Russia and getting peed on by hookers. Literally. I've heard Donald Trump described as a germaphobe and somebody who washes his hands constantly. And so the idea that he spends his recreational time getting peed on by hookers in Russia doesn't exactly jive with that. But, I mean, they probably had no idea because they didn't bother to look into it. So they rather just, find something. Because, hey, he did say something like grab him by the pussy. And, they always forget the part about how, he's saying that when you're rich, women will let you do whatever you want because women that are that shameless and essentially that low to not even really give a shit if somebody with money is using them. Well, that's not that surprising, but they blew it up into that whole big thing about how he's a sexual abuser. Nah, that's not what he was doing. Yeah, sure, you can say it was inappropriate for a president to be talking about. Okay, fine, whatever. But man, and then the Access Hollywood tape that came out about that whole thing, and it's just. But anyway, this is the tip of the iceberg for this whole thing. That's just a blip because that wasn't the meat of the accusation. The accusation was that he was installed as president by Russia. That was the whole point of the Hillary Clinton campaign, and the whole point of the Democrats for the next 4 years after he was elected to basically discredit him and destroy his whole first term. Which is why this time you notice what I love about this term so much is how obviously he gives so little of a shit about what people have to say this time around. He's not bogged down by reporters that are trying to hit him with questions about, stupid shit like this. He will address it, but he'll address it and then he'll just dismiss it. Like some of the lines he's given lately have been beautiful. Like just the dismissed sort of attitude towards somebody after he's done addressing their ridiculous question. It's basically like I read out of that I'm sorry, you shut up now. I answered your stupid question that everybody knows the answer to, and everybody knows why you asked. I humored you enough to answer that ridiculous crap. Now shut up, I'm moving on. And I love it. It's perfect. It's exactly the way you should respond to somebody like that because, as much as they want to say, well, we're doing this for the people. We're doing this to inform the public. No, you're not. No, you're not. You don't do anything to inform the public. How about you inform us who blew up Nord Stream 2? How about you inform us about the mRNA vaccine and the side effects? How about you inform us about that kind of stuff? No, we can't do that. Anyway, let's get this damn clip, if I can freaking find the folder. Where are we? Aha, here we go. There we go. Now, which by the way, also that Glenn Beck clip at the beginning, which is so awesome to hear. I mean, I hope that's true because we've been hearing more about how really sadistic this guy is, not just with what he did during COVID, not just what he did throughout his career with the AIDS epidemic or different viruses with people, but the cruelty to animals, that may be one of the worst. I don't even want to get into it because quite honestly, it'll make me sick and I'll just start seeing red. But But this sick son of a bitch is an absolute monster. Like he's on the level of comic book villain. Like that's I've talked about this before, where someone is so absolutely cruel and just without any real motive other than supposedly the advancement of science. I mean, that's literally like a a action movie villain that you would find, just very cookie cutter, obviously evil, that sits there and laughs maniacally as he thinks about ruling the world. This is exactly the kind of people that would be doing something like this. It's sick. It's absolutely disgusting. And to justify it with some stupid, vague, ridiculous response like, well, we're trying to prevent certain outbreaks from happening. Ah, really? Yeah. Okay. What if you prevented that was going to be coming? Oh, yeah, nothing. And you try to take credit for curing certain illnesses. Okay, you've cured some illnesses that you get when you're irresponsible and, I don't know, bang somebody you never met that might have some STD, or you're a junkie using reused needles. I mean, come on now. These are the great contributions. I'm not saying those people deserve to die. I'm just saying that don't make yourself out to be a messiah when you are. I mean, I don't hear the people who are coming up with cancer treatments coming out and bragging this hard about even that. And those people actually are noteworthy because they're actually helping to save human lives that would be otherwise lost. This is a guy who's trying to cure diseases that don't exist and may never exist by creating new diseases that don't exist and never would have existed if he didn't start making them. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so I found it. This is Ali Stefanik. Now, at this hearing, Adam Schiff was doing his usual dictatorial regime tactics of controlling literally every aspect of the hearing, from what members could speak to what got entered into the record. I've never once heard a chairman from either side of the aisle that was the head of a committee, that was the chair of a committee, that didn't accept unanimous consent request to enter something into the record. Never seen that in any hearing I've ever watched, other than this one, where Adam Schiff is not allowing anybody to enter anything into the record. He's trying to control who can speak. Like, when one congressman gets their time to ask questions for the witness, they can yield their time to another member of Congress if they want to. Not according to Schiff, they can't. They could do it to their, apparently, someone's attorney or something. It was the weirdest explanation I've ever heard. And then he won't take parliamentary inquiry, which means that he won't explain his rationale behind it. So we have to just guess at that, which means that I have no idea why the hell he would do that, other than he wanted to make sure he controlled everything that was coming out of that hearing. But because he was trying to do that and they were getting fed up with it, Elise Stefanik decided, I'm going to put this in the record whether you like it or not. I'll just read this shit out into the record. And this is beautiful. So that's the context behind this. So as I pull this up, just wanted to let you guys know that was. It might seem kind of strange if you don't know the pretext. That's why this is happening this way. So here we go. So let me pull this up, and then we'll go to. I think the second screen should be okay. Now that comes on. Just wait. Oh, that's right. Okay. All right. Now. What the hell? The green screen's not working on the camera. Or it kind of is. Oh, it's just too far over to the. Which way is it? Okay, that way. Oh, now it's the other way. Sorry about that, you guys. I should have checked this camera too. Forgot. Jeez, there was a lot I forgot. It's okay. It's all right. I'm not gonna sweat it today. Oh no, it's fine. It was my chair. Okay, that was just me being overly. Okay, all right. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. This is Elise Stefanik before she became the ambassador to the UN for Donald Trump's cabinet, which she got confirmed pretty quickly. Everybody that you notice, everybody that came from Congress or the Senate got confirmed really quickly. Marco Rubio and Elise Stefanik and anybody like that got confirmed really quickly because that group is going to consider themselves part of the team because they're already Washington D.C. inside politicians that even no matter what side they are on or what level their corruption may be, they're still part of the team. So I heard this floated the other day, by the way, and I don't have no idea if this is true or not. I'm just going to throw this out real quick before we start this. I heard this as a rumor. If this is true, I might jump up and cheer because this would be the coolest thing ever. I heard it rumored that Donald Trump was considering when Jerome Powell has to his term is up for head of the Federal Reserve. He was going to nominate. Wait, who was it? Oh yeah. God, why am I? That's right. I kept mixing up names. He's going to nominate Ron Paul. It's like, oh man, that would be the icing on the cake for just actually that'd be the cherry on top of the whole thing. Like just the last one, just the people that are there to just take a wrecking ball to the whole thing. He was on Tucker Carlson not too long ago and was talking about how relieved and hopeful he feels when he hears young adults and young people talking about end the Fed. It's hilarious, but if you have that guy in charge of the Federal Reserve, oh man, I can only imagine how glorious that would be. But I'm sorry, I was getting confused. I was trying to remember Ron Paul. Wait, hold on. It wasn't Rand Paul, obviously, because he's in the Senate. But and Ron Paul is getting up there now. But he's still kicking. He's still doing pretty well, it seems like. So, which, by the way, also one of the new chairmen for the Senate and has been overseeing a lot of the confirmation hearings, Chuck Grassley. The oldest member of Congress, I believe, 88 years old. Let's just say, you compare that guy to Biden. He's almost 10 years no, about 6 to 7 years his senior. And yet, I still remember the last time he was running for re-election, and Trump was endorsing him. He actually showed up in Iowa at his rally to accept the endorsement, and he came up on stage and he's like, "Well, I guess I'd be a fool if I was to deny the what was it what's the word I just used? I can't remember what the hell I was just saying. God damn. When a president gives his, I guess I'll just say supported. He was, I guess I'd be a fool if I didn't accept the support of the most popular president in the Republican Party. He was like, and he got this huge cheer, of course, because, and this old guy, he's not having any trouble speaking or walking or anything, and he gets up there. You could tell you could tell he's old. You could tell he's not spry. He's not jogging like Biden used to do, that little shuffle jog that he used to do. And that, oh god, that was like the most. That was almost the most sad run you've ever seen in your life. But no, Chuck Grassley just strolls up and he. And then as soon as he's done doing that, he goes his little, yeah, It's just like the guy is uh, one of the most honest guys that's still left in the Senate, especially for as long as he's been there. And him and Ron Johnson in particular, they worked together a lot on the whistleblower stuff, especially for the Hunter Biden scandal. And my God, the amount of whistleblower testimony that they had and were constantly presenting to Congress, even after the normal days events were over and there was nothing else scheduled, and they basically were talking to the cameras and hoping people were watching. But they gave speech after speech after speech on the floor after hours to let people know that the investigation was still ongoing. They still were finding out more stuff, and it's really a travesty at this point that that nobody really took anything seriously. But that's what happened. I swear to God, you want to talk about like who's cheapening things? Like once again, the Democrats cheapen the idea of impeachment. Because what did they do? Well, they didn't listen to one word of evidence that came out. They said, "Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?" Well, they've been addressing where the evidence is. You guys aren't listening. Yeah, and you just dismiss it whenever they do bring it up. It's so stupid. And then there's things like, man, what was another one that was really seriously, obviously, you know, things like rape or racism or misogyny or Islamophobia or things like that. Those have all cheapened to the point that they almost mean nothing. As much as they should mean something. Unfortunately, they've been just slung around by leftists who want to slander people as much as they want. They've been cheapened to the point where they basically mean almost nothing. So, yeah, it's just it's yet another one of those things where they just cheapen it until it means next to nothing. Oh yeah, that's right. That was the other thing. They actually just decided in the Senate to just to completely dismiss an impeachment. Didn't listen to the evidence. Didn't hear any kind of any argument pro or against impeachment for Alejandro Mayorkas. The House held the vote. They impeached him. Moved over to the Senate, and they didn't find him not guilty to be not guilty and therefore not impeachable. They didn't table it like they were talking about doing, where they would just put it off to the side and deal with it later, which they would never have done anyway. They could have done that and maintained the illusion that they, well, at least a procedural sort of illusion that they actually were going to still do something about it, because that's exactly the same thing they did for H.R. 2, which was the actual border bill that actually did something about the border that came out of the House that was meant to basically reinstate the Remain in Mexico policies, safe third country agreements, and the Wall project, as well as to end catch and release, to end a bunch of the ridiculous, like the asylum claim ideas, and to kind of reinstate ICE as an authority on immigration. And anyway, it was just because I remember when ICE used to be like every day some stupid illegal was getting up and talking in front of giant crowds. I'm illegal, and I think ICE should be abolished. I'm sure you do, but where's the argument? But yet they would run that like that was some compelling case. And then, I swear, then it was like the Dreamers thing where like everyone who was brought here as a child that knows no other way of life. Yeah, that they got dealt a shitty hand, and I want to show compassion where we can, but that shouldn't mean blanket amnesty for all of them. And yet their response was, no, these are all young scholars, and they're the next scientists, and they're the next presidents, even though they can't even legally be president because they weren't born in the country. But they're going to be future leaders. Oh, you just watch and see. Yeah, they'll be leaders, all right. Leaders of MS-13 or Trinidad or whatever gang they join. But I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm stereotyping. That's just despicable. But no, seriously, like if you broke the law, sorry, sometimes you gotta kind of pay for the offense. And yeah, you didn't break any laws. You shouldn't really go to jail or anything. But first off, if we're going to, this was the thing that really did it for me because I'm sorry, we'll get to the clip in just a second. I went off on a tangent. I'm sorry, but this is what really did it for me. We give blanket amnesty to all the dreamers. Okay, cool, great. Well, you guys got what you wanted, right? Nope, that's not what they want. No, they're still pissed off. And they're still calling him a fascist. They're still calling him Hitler. Why? Because he's not allowing them to bring their mother, their father, their brother, their cousin, their aunt, their uncle, their everybody in their family. And so they're not, basically every one of them is not allowed to bring about 10 to 20 of their relatives with them from Mexico to live here now. So they're pissed. That's why when you give freeloaders things and they ask for more, if you say no, it's like you didn't do anything. You shouldn't ever do that with people that are obviously not in any way thankful for what they get. Like they never will be thankful enough to just say, wow, thank you so much. We gave these people, these young adults, we acknowledged the situation. We admitted the situation was unfortunate for them, and therefore we gave them citizenship and said, okay, you didn't commit the crime. You're too young to understand. We'll go ahead and give you a pardon. Okay, but what about my family? Huh? What about your family? The ones that broke in illegally and knew what they were doing? Yeah, no, they're not included in this. But citizens get to do that. Yeah, citizens, full citizens. People that were legally allowed to be here from the start. It's just... So that was what did it for me, really, was when I saw this sort of insistence that, no, unless you do all these things, then you're still being a racist and you're still being completely... you're being white supremacist bad man who is going to be new Hitler. And it's just the brazen absolute, and it's the same thing with the whole affirmative action. And when that got ruled as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court now, because essentially it's doing nothing but punishing mostly Asian Americans now at this point. They were all up in arms about that too. Like, well, I think we still need it to help. Okay, there hasn't been anything in the law that has been there to contribute to so-called systemic oppression for anyone in this country for like the last 70 years. So how about, instead of complaining about how you're not getting your free college anymore, how about you, I don't know, work at getting into college? Because you know what Asians have to do to get into college? They have to not only get higher than a 4.0, that's true, but they also have to, what is it? They just have to get lucky pretty much, especially the female Asian population of America. Like they have the absolute hardest time out of any other ethnic group to actually be approved to get into especially higher institutions of learning, because amongst all races and all sexes, I guess I should say both sexes. You got to clarify these things these days, because who knows who's going to be listening. But out of all demographics in those categories, Asian females are those who have the highest hurdle to get over for making it into college because they seem to score highest results on SATs. They seem to have the highest GPAs. They seem to have the most credits while going to high school and maybe sometimes a couple years of junior college or whatever it might be. So it's like, yeah, good luck. um, and which is it sucks for that. It really does. And that was why it was mostly why it was ruled unconstitutional. And I remember it was oh no, it was before that because it was during the pandemic when there were all these attacks on Asian people, especially Chinese people. I guess out of some sort of twisted idea that they were, enacting revenge for COVID being released into the world by Wuhan, and even though these people that you're beating up had to most likely risk execution to get away from the country, now you're going to associate them with the country and beat the shit out of and even kill. Like one guy got killed because he got I think somebody pushed him into his own garage door so hard that his skull cracked and he killed him. And it was, and they never wanted to talk about the people that did it though because they weren't white. It was mostly black men, but there was other groups behind it, but mostly black men. So they didn't want to talk about it. Now that's not to say that black people are responsible for. I always have to throw the caveat out because everybody always thinks the worst, and this is why the whole thing, when we started addressing race as if it was this critical thing to always talk about, critical race theory, that was when we really doomed ourselves once again to fall victim to these stupid historic ideas that we have always we've always known. We need to be better than this, but we also need to acknowledge reality, and part of that is like if you're going to talk about demographics in any way and use it as a marker as a potential factor for doing good or doing bad, you have to accept the results whether you want to or not. So you can't just say that we need to have merit-based systems of equal opportunities for black people, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people, and everybody else. Somebody's here. Anyway, dogs are going crazy. Sorry about that. But you can't do that and then expect there's going to be some sort of equal treatment or anything. It's just it's the way that people get stereotyped, and then bad shit happens. So anyway, so let's get to this damn clip finally. I'm sorry, I've been wasting way too much time. This is that clip of Elise Stefanik, and oh man, she's got a lot to say. So let's get into it. Oh, I got to turn the volume on too, and I got to turn. Yeah, it's on there. Okay.
Thank you. Since the chairman has gavelled out all of my colleagues with their unanimous consent, I am going to read for the record many of the chairman's comments in September of the importance of hearing from the whistleblower. Again, Ambassador, thank you for your patience, thank you for your service, but since we haven't been able to conduct ourselves in normal procedures, I'm just going to use the 5 minutes for this. September 29th, in the Wall Street Journal, quote, "The whistleblower at the center of the impeachment investigation of President Trump will testify in the House very soon." This is a quote by the chairman. USA Today, September 29th.
Well, you see the
Talking to
side-by-side
ABC
with
News this
with
week,
this
Schiff, the
piece of
Democrat who
shit.
chairs the House Intelligence Committee, said the whistleblower would testify very soon. And the only thing standing in the way was getting security clearances for the attorneys representing the whistleblower so they could attend the testimony. From Vox, September 29th, Rep. Adam Schiff said Sunday the whistleblower at the center of a growing scandal surrounding President Donald Trump will testify before the House Intelligence Committee very soon. On CNN, September 29th, Schiff said Sunday on ABC as well as NBC's Meet the Press that he expects the whistleblower to testify very soon. The Washington Post, September 29th.
You notice
In
how they
appearance on
spread
ABC
this
News
everywhere
week,
that
Schiff
would
echoed
listen?
Pelosi's message. He also said he expected the
Yeah, look at
Intelligence
him.
Committee
Look at him.
to
He's
hear
just
from
sitting
the
there.
whistleblower very soon, pending a security
this
clearance
son of a
from
bitch.
Acting Director of National Intelligence Joseph McGuire.
Oh,
In the
jeez.
He's Post,
Wow.
Schiff told ABC's this
He's
week that
so
he expects the
uncomfortable.
whistleblower to
There he
appear
is.
before this
There's-
committee very soon. In the
I
New
love
York
how they
Post,
put that
quote,
camera on him
we'll
like
get
that,
the
too.
unfiltered testimony
Like-
of that whistleblower.
Yep.
In the Washington
There's
Times,
the man
quote,
himself.
that whistleblower will be allowed to come
He's
in.
like,
These are
"Oh,
all
no,
quotes
it's
from
fine.
Chairman
It's
Adam
fine."
Schiff. In Talking Points memo,
She's
the
not
question
done.
was posed. Actually, this was by George Stephanopoulos. Have you reached an
Of course
agreement
it was
yet with
from
the
George
whistleblower and
Stephanopoulos.
his or her attorneys about coming
Fuck
before
George
the committee
Stephanopoulos.
and providing the information firsthand? Quote, yes, we have, Schiff responded. And as DNI McGuire promised during the hearing, that whistleblower will be allowed to come in without a minder from the Justice Department or from the White House to tell the whistleblower what they can and cannot say. We'll get the unfiltered testimony of that whistleblower. The Daily Coast.
We'll get that
We're ready to hear from
unfiltered-
the whistleblower as soon as that
unfiltered.
is done. And we'll keep obviously riding
Oh, fuck
shotgun to
this
make sure
guy.
that the acting director doesn't delay in that clearance process.
God.
In CNBC, we'll get the unfiltered testimony of that whistleblower. In Market Watch, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff said Sunday that an agreement has been reached under which the whistleblower will testify before the committee very soon. I can keep going, but again, the chairman refused to allow us to put these into the record with unanimous
Yeah.
consent. So I've read those out, and as we know, it is important to protect whistleblowers from retaliation and from firing, and we want to make sure whistleblowers are able to come forward. But in this case, the fact that we are getting criticized by Chairman Adam Schiff for statements that he himself made early on in this process shows the duplicity and just the abuse of power that we are continuing to see.
So, just to reiterate, the reason she's doing that is because you would normally submit documents that have all those headlines and all those statements and all the information there. You normally submit those for the record so that when anybody goes to look up this hearing in the congressional record, there would be those documents that would be alongside the transcribed discussion that's going on. They have someone who's always furiously typing away to keep up with the hearing to make sure that everyone is recorded and on record for what they've said in the hearing. But like I said, I've never, ever heard, unless it was something obscene, like somebody objected to Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to enter into the record pictures of Hunter Biden in the nude, shall we say, which, I mean, it was blurred out, but I guess they were embarrassed, which I would be too if that was the son of the guy that I was saying is such a benevolent guy and such a wonderful father. And I would be a little embarrassed too if it was a picture of him in a hotel with a crack pipe and hookers and that was what was actually being entered into the record. That's the only time I've ever seen anybody try to object to anything being put into the record. But in this case, to have that stuff be considered not admissible, I guarantee you, I didn't see, because this part's not really spread as much as the rest of the events of that hearing, because also, mind you, when Devin Nunes was the ranking member on this committee, and if you ever heard of the Nunes memo, that was Kash Patel and Devin Nunes that doing the research into the history of the Russia probe, Operation, what was it? Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Most goofy name to some stupid, fucking ridiculous probe into Donald Trump's campaign and the collusion with the Russians to get elected. But she's reading those out so that they will be inserted into the record by way of the the congressional stenographer. Is that what it's called? I think that's what it's called. Anyway, so that they'll include that. They can include it that way because he won't accept the documents. So we'll make sure that we include it that way. I guarantee you, this was what I was going to say. I guarantee you, he was trying to hide behind some stupid excuse, probably, like we're trying to make sure that we maintain credibility and the anonymity of the whistleblower. Well, yeah, but if anything happened to that, I'd say that would be your fault, sir, for going on television all over the place, anywhere that would take you, and listening to your bullshit about it for the better part of 3 years, 2 or 3 years at that point, about whistleblowers that could confirm that that there was a conversation between Donald Trump and this Russian official and yada yada yada. It's so fucking stupid. But anyway, what would that have to do? Nothing in any of those has anything to do with revealing the identity of the whistleblower, nor the credibility of the whistleblower. The only thing that it draws into question is Adam Schiff's credibility, which would be pretty much shot if any of that was actually, accepted or discussed. But this is why I'm talking about this today, because the right-wing stations already talk about this, and they don't really spend much time talking about it anymore. Or when they do talk about it, they talk about it in ways that is like everybody already knows and is in on the joke. And if you, especially if you're a new Trump voter that has no idea about what actually happened in the last term, and feel yourself being persuaded or even getting confused a little bit about what are they talking about? Why are they saying that Trump did this and that without, they're saying they have proof. It's like, this is the extent of the proof. This is the extent of it. The claims. It's always claims. It's always claims made by like senators or members of Congress, or sometimes some kind of lawyer or some kind of judge that's completely partisan. And it's always, always, always amplified by places like CNN, MSNBC, ABC, every leftist legacy news organization that has a bunch of hack journalists that actually have never done journalistic work in their life and do nothing but opinion and editorial. And that's basically the whole scheme. Because, like I said, the Democratic Party has a fantastic propaganda machine working for them. And I swear, I'm not kidding on this, this would make Joseph Goebbels blush. Because they are so in sync with how well they can coordinate a message. The one exception, and I'm blown away by this, I've been blown away time after time recently by this, because he even voted for, I think he voted for RFK, if I'm not mistaken. Or it might not have been RFK, but it was, there's definitely nominees, though, from Donald Trump he did vote for. And it wasn't just Marco Rubio and Elise Stefanik. There were others. Out of nowhere, John Fetterman. John Fetterman from Pennsylvania. The guy that suffered a stroke and has very intense need for special types of accommodations because, he was on Joe Rogan. He explained the extent of it, and essentially what happened after the stroke is that there's nothing wrong with his hearing. He says he can hear fine, but when he hears the noises, he can't correlate words in his head to what those noises mean. Like, it's unusual, but it's not at all like something that would be that surprising after suffering a stroke. Your brain's going to get, jumbled pretty badly after that, and it's going to be rough and confusing. But what he's been able to come up with and been using now for a while is a sort of speech to text app that he uses on a device that while he's talking to somebody, it just displays the text form on screen, and he can read. So if he can read it, he can make sense of it, and then he can process it that way, and then he can respond and he can speak, and it's easier for him to speak and articulate himself. But it was because on Joe Rogan, he he had a problem early on where he wasn't quite getting it either fast enough, or he wasn't getting the words that were spoken correctly, or something was wrong with the sync of the machine and the speech that Joe was speaking. So they took a quick pause, and then they came back, and it was working fine after that. And then you kind of got the idea that, yeah, okay, yeah. But ironically and hilariously, he's been one of the only people that is willing to speak out. He's kind of like, and I've talked about this before, Joe Manchin by no means was, a guy that I agreed with on everything, but I at least respected the guy for, knowing what was too far and knowing what we could and could not handle, which is why it was the, what was it? Oh yeah, it was Build Back Better. I think that was the one that, or was it the infrastructure? I don't know. No, it was Build Back Better because he just recognized that we're in way too much debt to be passing a bill like this. So, and Kirsten Sinema was of the same mindset, and so they both were getting harassed nonstop by a bunch of left-wing activist nut jobs like Antifa and probably some BLM nuts and some freaking a bunch of their quote-unquote allies, by following Kirsten Sinema into a bathroom and yelling at her while she's in a stall about why she's not voting for this and helping them with keep their rights, even though the bill had nothing to do with anyone's rights, really. And as far as Joe Manchin, it meant surrounding his car as they were trying to leave a parking garage, and yelling at him and banging on his hood and on his ceiling, and yeah, it was pretty nasty. But these are the defenders of the democracy, so of course they wouldn't be doing this without good cause. But no, there was no good cause. It was just a bunch of pissed off morons that had no idea what they were doing and no idea what they were talking about, and just decided, I'm going to go do this because I don't like Joe Manchin. So that's their idea of peaceful protest, which once again, I talked about this before too. They also were quick to break the law, as a matter of fact, when they decided that when the Dobbs decision leaked, which regardless of how you feel about the Dobbs decision, there is a law that is written into the United States Penal Code, and it's a federal law that says if you are picketing outside of the home or residence or location where a court judge or Supreme Court justice happens to be residing or happens to be visiting, and you're demonstrating in such a way to influence a decision that's being made by the court, that's against the law, and you're to be arrested and removed and potentially found guilty on breaking the statute, and probably not a serious sentence, but once again, you're not supposed to be able to do that. Merrick Garland, our last attorney, that's the other thing. When you compare, I saw this video, and maybe I'll find it for a future episode because it was so perfect. But whenever you hear people right now on the left try to discredit Donald Trump's picks for his cabinet, Pam Bondi for Attorney General, Kristi Noem for Department of Homeland Security, Kash Patel for Director of the FBI, and how irresponsible and terrible they're going to be. Well, let's look at their records, and let's even look at some of them, what they've done so far. Like Kristi Noem, helping to secure the border, helping to make sure that no more immigrants are getting through with just catch and release bullshit. They were, excuse me. They've been reworking sections of Guantanamo Bay, which might sound extreme at first, but there was a whole section of Guantanamo Bay that's not part of the area that people normally associate with it, which was used to house specifically migrants that were coming from countries where they may be needing to seek asylum. And so that's exactly what that part of the facility is for. It's not at all anywhere near the area where they kept the dangerous people that were associated with the terrorist organizations, and that where they kept the more dangerous criminals as well. It's a different area of the location altogether. And so, because that's the case, it was something that seemed perfect for an area to house people who were still wanting to have their cases adjudicated, but didn't have a place to go until it was adjudicated, because they're not staying in the interior anymore. We're not just gonna wave them in and let them wait. You know, the projections were something like 10 to 12 years for some of the people that had gotten here during the administration. That was how long they were gonna have to wait before they were gonna have their case even heard. Not to mention the fact that even after they had been damn, no, yeah, I think I got a little mustache here. Sorry. But even after most people who have had their cases adjudicated and had been found not suitable for humanitarian relief or asylum, that had been the conclusion of the court. They'd had their due process. They'd had their hearing. They'd had their day in court, and they were found not eligible for asylum. Homeland Security was doing nothing to remove them, so it didn't matter anyway, because even if they were processed and found not suitable, oh well. And then you could just go to sanctuary cities where they have sanctuary law. That means that, you know, the Constitution and the law doesn't apply here anymore. So, you know, you could do whatever you want. No, that's not how that's supposed to work either. There's not supposed to be so-called quote-unquote sanctuary cities where, and you notice this with Eric Adams. He's wrestling with this so hard because you could tell he knows this is all wrong, and he knows that he needs to. It's not going to work the way he's trying to do it. His party's never going to let him straddle the line like that. He's going to have to completely just dismiss any idea that there's rationalizing with anyone on the left. And just accept that, okay, we have to do what I got to do to keep the city safe, get rid of everyone who is an illegal immigrant who is particularly committing crimes. And I will say that at the very least, he's on board with the part that even a lot of leftists aren't for, which is if you've been convicted of a crime, you should be deported. I don't understand why that's even controversial in the slightest, but apparently the left doesn't like that idea either. So yeah, it's this is what I mean with these things. They've gotten so far out of control, and people have just kind of accepted what's happened for so long because there was no choice. You had an administration that was going to do what they wanted to do. They even defied the Supreme Court when it came to the decision regarding the school, the college tuition relief thing, where Biden said, "I'll forgive your student loan debt," and the courts are like, "No, you can't do that." And Biden's like, "Oh, yes, I can. I'm going to do it anyway," and he does. And there's no punishment for that either. So he just, defies the Supreme Court, and no biggie, whatever. And these are the ones who are constantly yammering about democracy and how our democratic norms are being threatened. And yeah, they sure are, by you and by your fucking party that is so delusional that you really have no problem just having everyone in the oh man. Okay, anyway, so well, now that first one is done, there was a reason I wanted to play that one first, was because that's the kind of guy Adam Schiff is. Kind of guy who, once he has a taste of power, he is going to cling to it. And I can tell you, he's probably not. I mean, the Democrats are going to accept it one way or another because they don't really care at the end of the day how unhinged you are, as long as you're on their team. they might not like the fact that he's going to be bringing some criticism their way, but at the end of the day, they'll probably be able to shake it because they're going to release enough information to their stooges in the media and their little puppets that they have that dance around to their tune. Especially, I can't emphasize this enough, especially their little middle school looking, sorry, not middle-aged, middle school looking online social media influencers like Harry Sisson and freaking, what's that stupid idiot guy's name? Something Ryan, whatever his stupid name is. And of course, David Pakman. Don't forget David Pakman. And of course, Kyle Kalinske, two of the most utter frauds I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, no, these guys that are just oozing with this smug arrogance that they're trying to portray as this assuredness that they're doing the right thing. It's like, no, it really comes off as just smug, dude. Sorry. You come off like a pretty arrogant prick to me, actually. I can say that wholeheartedly. There's not 1 ounce of time that I waste. There's not 1 second, 1 millisecond of time that I waste wondering, maybe he is honest about No. There's not 1 millisecond at all. In fact, you know what? I could just go ahead and play that real quick because it's not really super relevant, but might as well because it's funny. Let's get a taste of a YouTube influencer on the left. One of the influencers, which, by the way, I've said this before. I'll say it again, just for the reboot of the channel. I don't care how successful this channel is. I don't care how successful I am. I don't care if a bunch of people that don't know me started referring to me this way. If I ever refer to myself or accept the moniker of influencer, just kill me, please. It's the dumbest freaking title you could ever. A bunch of influencers. We're influencers. It is so fucking gross. I'm sorry, but it is just gross. That's why I can't stand that stupid shit. But they eat it all up. They love it. Because, for once in their life, they actually feel like they actually are influencing something. I guess. They aren't influencing much. But I guess for once in their life, they kind of feel like they have some control over something. Because these guys are some of the most unimpressive dolts you'll ever see. But, and, I'm a very, very small streamer that just started a few months ago and had a very bad hiccup in the middle that cost me a month. Yeah, I know. So what? I'm still better than these pieces of shit. I'm sorry. These people that can lie this blatantly and are this willing to just buy into the horse shit. Okay, fine. Have at it. I'd much rather keep my dignity. Thank you very much. Now, even if I supported anything that was done by that lunatic side, I would not in any way be able to take the side of these morons that are going to actually argue with you over literally everything that you might bring up from things like men can give birth to socialism works. I mean, there's nothing that's too outrageous or stupid for them to get behind. Defund the police, that's a great example too. Whatever genius thought that idea up, they need to get a medal because, man, that proved a level of stupid that I didn't know was possible for even people on the left. I mean, it's pretty astounding. But yeah, that's them. That's them. It's got to be here somewhere. I know because I saved this one for sure. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So there's one of these influencers, that people for some reason actually watch. Hopefully, ironically, but I would imagine there's a significant amount. Well, I know there's a significant amount of them that watch them unironically because there's this prick. I'll tell you the story in just a second, because if you think that in this clip Jesse Lee Peterson is going too hard on Mr. Pac-Man here, I'll tell you a little story about what happened when Dennis Prager was on David Pac-Man's show, and what kind of a two-faced absolute slimeball David Pac-Man actually is. So anyway, but yeah, this is what an absolute like what a weasel this guy is. So this is what the left dubs to be an influencer. This is who influences the Democrats. So here we go. I hope you enjoy this one, because man, this is a real. Take a good look at what I can't believe I'm saying this. What men on the left aspire to. What men of any kind aspire to. That's kind of sad, and you'll.
When men are confused about their gender and women are confused about theirs, and now we're paying for it, is that progress?
Are you a fiscal conservative, Jesse?
Answer that question, David. Is that progress?
Well, are you a fiscal conservative?
David,
You notice how he
question.
won't answer
Is that
any
progress?
question. He won't ever answer
It's
a
not
question.
an example of something that is or isn't progress. But the reason I'm asking whether you're a fiscal conservative
would you
is
call
it's
that, David?
cheaper. It's cheaper
David,
to
what would
pay
you
for
call
those
that?
procedures
Why-
than to
why did-
discharge, to find and discharge every transgender member of the military. So if you're a fiscal conservative, and I've
David.
heard you say that you are, you should favor the cheaper
Why do
option,
we have
which
this
is
guy
paying
back
for
on the
those
show?
procedures and not paying for what it
James.
would cost to find and discharge all
Hey,
those
David,
transgender
David.
military members.
David, you're not here to communicate. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to let you go. It's a waste of time to talk to you. We're not communicating. You're acting like an
No,
idiot.
because you're asking bizarre questions
You're
and not
acting
answering
like an
any of them.
idiot, and you're wasting my time. I appreciate
ad
you
hominem.
coming. All right,
It's
thank
an
you
ad
for
hominem,
coming.
so you know
Goodbye.
that.
Goodbye. Let him go. That's a progressive, folks. All men who are progressive, or males who are progressive, are weak people.
Indeed. Hello, Eddie Madison. How's it going, man? You enjoy David Pac-Man there? Long story short, yes, he's absolutely right about that. Anyone that is that pathetic is absolutely weak person, because his strategy, you notice, was to first off try to completely change the subject to be about finances as opposed to the morality of, in particular, allowing children to have their dick cut off or their breasts chopped off and pretend that they're a member of the opposite sex. But it's not something that Jesse was really bringing up in terms of the financial cost of it. It was something that, I mean, he was kind of bringing it up in terms of taxes, but there's a deeper issue than the financial burden of it. It's that I don't want any of my money going to something I morally find completely reprehensible. Now, if you're an adult and you're paying for it, hey, knock yourself out. You're in control of yourself. You have the complete freedom to do what you want. That's been my stance on it forever. And I won't even deny even the idea that there are some people that definitely seem like, they made that decision and they're happier for it. Great. Awesome. Good for you. But when you start bringing kids into the scenario and go so far as to advocate that children be legally able to make that kind of decision for themselves, no, that's when you are not only going too far, you're getting into the area of so morally bankrupt, we're talking demonic here. People like Chloe Cole, who have actually experienced this sort of thing at age fucking 14. I mean, just ask them how it worked out, and it's despicable. But yeah, it's I mean, and then we get into the prisoner shit and the amount of rapes that have been going on in female prisons because of men saying they're actually women and they want to be housed in a women's prison, and all of a sudden all these female inmates start getting pregnant. I wonder why that is. Wow, but we only have females in this war. Are you sure? I think you might have some men. No, we have trans women, but they're trans women. Ah, so they have dicks. Yeah, that's right, they do. They have dicks. So you know what that means biologically, don't you? it's oh god. But people like David and his influencing would have you believe that that's progress. That's a progressive stance. That's a great thing. And so would Kyle Kulinski too, and all his minions of ridiculous fools that follow him. I love. Everyone was laughing about the frosted tips. I wasn't so much laughing about the frosted tips, so much as I was laughing about the inability to grasp the idea why Kamala Harris lost the election. That was a little bit more funny to me. But anyway, that wasn't really that was mean. I apologize. I shouldn't have put David on blast like that. He's just another idiot like the rest of them. But yeah. Let's see. So let's get into the real meat and potatoes of the actual episode that I was going to focus on. Because the reason I'm talking about this is because of what's been going on predominantly at USAID, which has been mostly the work of Elon Musk and DOGE. And we found out that the money that we have been giving them via our tax money has not exactly been on the level. In fact, it's been absolutely, completely morally bankrupt and gone to the point of national suicide, essentially. Like that. This is at a time when we're spending like there's no tomorrow, and we're already, what is it, $6 trillion? Well, no, we're like $36 trillion in debt, and we're spending like $6 trillion every year, over $6 trillion every year, because Ron Johnson talked about it recently, and he mentioned that it was like during the pandemic we raised spending levels like an extra $1 trillion, and that was way above GDP income for tax receipts. So you would think that, okay, we get done with that cycle. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the sort of tax levels we had before the pandemic, and then we'll slowly start getting that money back when we start manufacturing again. It's like, and instead, because Joe Biden, quote unquote, won the last election, well, not the last election now, this election before the last election, and I do say won as in, air quotes, won the last election. Because of that, that meant that, oh no, we can spend as much money as we want to spend, and we'll keep spending at the same level as we did during COVID. They literally haven't spent the same amount of money that we've spent pre-COVID since before COVID. And, that was justifiable at the time. We could all understand that. We were all very gracious for that. It was necessary, although we shouldn't have been locked down to begin with. But, I mean, I can understand why decisions were made the way they were. It makes sense. It should have been kept to its word, as in, what was it, 14 days or 15 days to slow the spread, whatever it was. Basically 2 weeks. Okay, all right, fine. We'll do this. We'll go with this. See if it works. But then it went longer, and 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 then finally they opened up, and then it went back again, and then we went longer and longer and longer, and then it ended up being years before we actually got back to normal. And even when it got back to normal, it was slower because even though supposedly, most of the population was already vaccinated, and that was what they so desperately wanted. That wasn't enough. No, now they have to be vaccinated and still wear a mask. And I had to still wear a mask, get vaccinated, and wear double masks. And now we got to be vaccinated 5 times. And they just kept moving the goalposts over and over and over again. And it's obviously, pretty easy to see what they were doing. But what really does the system the most harm is that, number one, we kept spending way too much money. And number two, government employees especially, most of them were still allowed to be working from home, even to this day, which is one of the major things that they've found out from DOGE since Trump was inaugurated, that the amount of government employees still working out of the office, out of their actual work building and working from home is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It was something like 75% or 80% even of the workforce was still working from home. So they put an ultimatum out that was like, look, you start coming back to work for your full schedule every day again, like you did for years, probably before the pandemic. You either go back to that or we're going to fire you. Now the left had an uproar about that because that was, oh, how dare you fire these people? And it's strange how, okay, they fuck up Afghanistan, they fuck up COVID, they fuck up everything, they mess up and demonstrably prove that they have no business. The border, it gets fucked up beyond belief. Nobody gets fired. Nobody. I already told you about the whole impeachment thing with Alejandro Mayorkas, how the House had their impeachment hearings. They found him in violation of his constitutional duty and of his sworn oath, and so they found him guilty and subject to impeachment. Goes to the Senate, and what does Chuck Schumer do? Well, first there's word that he's going to, as I said before, there's word he's going to move to table, meaning he's going to move to just push it away and deal with it later. Then, that very night when they're supposed to be debating it, they find out there's actually a push to have no discussion, no debate, just to move to dismiss. And what happens? Well, because the Democrats vote in lockstep with each other and they have the majority, they win. And the impeachment goes bye-bye. No evidence was presented. No evidence was heard. No discussion was had. There was a little bit of a discussion of events after the decision had already been made on the House floor. Mike Lee went down. Mike Lee is one of the best actual members of the Senate, by the way, because, the guy, he could probably recite the Constitution from memory. And I wouldn't be surprised if he could recite most law from memory because the guy's like an encyclopedia for the United States and its historical documents. But yeah, they went down and said their piece and recognized what an absolute travesty this was to the rule of law and how this was going to go down, because I guarantee you, they try to impeach a president who's not even president anymore. The right tries to impeach a sitting Secretary of Homeland Security for not upholding his duty to defend the United States maritime borders from an invasion of people from countries all over the world. And they just man, that's not worth impeaching. Well, what is then? Oh, I know. if he was talking to Putin, oh man, that would have been the end of it. He would have been impeached in a second. Oh man, if it, I love the obsession with Putin. And I'm sorry, I'm not saying anything about Putin. I just love the way they think of Putin. It's fucking hilarious. They treat Putin like, I mean, you know, forget about the leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Iranian Ayatollahs and the mullahs and the freaking, every evil dictator, Kim Jong Un. Forget about all of them. It's Putin. Putin is the. Oh man, it's pretty funny. It's just the way they react to hearing the name Putin. It's just, or how many people they accuse of working for Putin. Oh God, I die laughing every time just because the hysteria around Putin is just like it's like the next coming of Hitler. Like other than Trump, who's also the next coming of Hitler. Like there's a lot of second comings of Hitler apparently, according to the Democrat Party. But anyway, let's get on with the subject because this is what really fired me up for this episode. We'll get into it finally now. I'll go ahead and get into the main subject because. To those unfamiliar, Sky News Australia is obviously an Australian company, but it's a news organization that does more sort of commentary than actual news. But they do some pretty cool takes. There's some pretty funny stuff they do sometimes, and their hosts all seem pretty grounded, pretty based, pretty relatively grounded individuals that have a good grasp of the situation in both their country and abroad. And of course, after Trump got elected, and even during Biden's presidency, they were often talking a lot about some of the events going on here. And so after Donald Trump got elected, they of course have been covering the constant meltdowns. But ever since this whole USAID thing, they've been trying to kind of get some answers about, what is it about this agency that's so important that it needs to be kept? What is it about this agency that makes it so threatening that Elon Musk is finding out where the money's been going? And you notice whenever, I'll just say right now, whenever they're questioned about this, they never talk about the substance of what was found. They never talk about the actual spending that's been going on. They never talk about the merit behind it, the reason for it, why it was necessary, why it's a good thing, how it helps us, none of that. What they do is they go and attack Elon Musk, and they also are using it as an attempted wedge to, it's pathetic, but they're trying to use it as a wedge to get Trump and Musk to go at it, which they've been kind of obviously been eyeballing for a long time now, which is why they've been trying to push this idea of President Musk all the time. And it really is pathetic because you see both of them just laughing about this. Elon Musk was was selected because he's not making any money. That was something Trump made clear recently. He's not making any money off of this. He is doing it for the national interest and national interest alone. He has plenty of government contracts because he's a freaking lunatic who can make insane technology that no one else on Earth can make. And so much so that the United States government needs him to be able to fix their screw-ups, like when they accidentally strand two astronauts in space at the was it the space station, the International Space Station, or is it the United States satellite? Or I can't remember what it was, but they're still stuck out in orbit, and they can't get to him. So they need Elon to get out there and pick him up. So what does he do? Well, if he didn't already pick him up, the plans are already completed, and they're just I'm not sure exactly where the process is, but they were preparing to go out and pick these astronauts up and bring them back because the American government, who NASA had sent up there, couldn't get them back. They didn't have the resources, or they didn't have the funding, or they didn't have whatever they needed to be able to go do it. But kind of pathetic. You leave 2 Americans in space and you need Elon Musk to get them back, and then you rag on the guy because he goes through the spending done by this organization that doesn't tell anybody what they're spending this money on. It's just supposedly supposed to be going to infrastructure and development in third world and impoverished countries. And what we find out, well, that's not exactly where the money was going. But let's start with the reason I got so freaking frustrated. This was the clip on Sky News last night that I watched. And this is a former Democrat congressman, I think she says, who's now working, of course, as a Democrat strategist, which means he's basically useless. He's he comes up with the idea to probably bring out, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen or something to play at the next election for some stupid, shitty governor or something. But he apparently still has some kind of relevance because they were speaking to him, and he sounded like he was within the circles enough to know the talking points pretty well, at least that much. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily a good thing. I would say that he's doing his role well, but I wouldn't say that's a good or a bad thing. Well, it's a kind of bad thing. But if you know what's happening, it's just despicable because, like I said, just the delusional speech here is very revealing. And the reason I have to go over this is just because for me, as I was watching this and listening to this idiot, I was sitting there thinking, oh, that's right, I saved it somewhere else. I was thinking, wow, this is nuts. This is incredible that this is the Democrat line of thinking. Like, we've all been wondering for some time now since Donald Trump got elected. They really haven't learned anything since the election, have they? Well, no, they haven't, but it's even worse than that. Anything they might have learned, they're finding other reasons to claim that there's a different cause behind it. That's not the cause. Isn't really that we just suck, and nobody voted for Kamala Harris even in a primary, let alone in a general election. And she was a horrible politician, and nobody liked her even when she was vice president. And nobody also liked the fact that they all voted for Joe Biden, and then without having a primary or any kind of process, you just shoved him out. Yet they think that, they're important enough and big enough, and they have enough grip over the culture to be able to just swap him out for the female woman of color who is going to be the next Obama, according to them. And they try to say how, oh no, her political career's not over. Okay, cool. I'm glad to hear that, because I'm glad to hear that we'll be winning again in whatever she's running for. But yeah, gosh, where's my video folder? Just a regular video folder. I forget when I clip things with OBS, it goes in a different folder. Here we go. I think it's here. Yep, here it is. Ooh, I have some other clips in here. I forgot about these. But I'll have to get to these some other time. Today, we're just going to finish up on this one, and then because I didn't realize I had so much to say today about all kinds of subjects, but this was the main topic for today, and it was the stuff with Schiff that was important because, like I said, that guy, I would play one more thing. I was thinking about it, but I don't have the stomach. I would just break my monitor at this point, so no. But this one on the flip side is actually like I said, pretty good insight into the way Democrats are thinking about the last election and are thinking about the state of the country and how they view their voters and the average American at this point. It's pretty astonishing. So give me just a second. I'll load this up and then we can go through this. And the important part about this is that the most important claims that the most important statements he makes. I have a clip to play immediately after this to answer his questions, basically, and to give him the sort of the answers that he was asking for. I mean, he does ask for these things, so I'll go ahead and give those to you and to him and to everyone else that was curious about this subject. So, anyway, let's go ahead and start this thing. So, as I said, this is a clip from Sky News Australia, and this was last night. This is a United States Democrat strategist. So, okay, here we go. Oh, volume. Okay.
Joining us now is former New York State Senator and Democratic strategist David Carlucci. David, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Look, how are you going? How are the Democrats going?
Well, it's an interesting time, but I think it's obvious that Donald Trump and his administration have just been stumbling after one move after the other.
Okay,
So
we
I
got to
think
stop already. What was that? They've been stumbling after one move after another. Really? Where have they been stumbling? I'm sorry, I haven't seen any stumbling really yet. I've seen a lot of stumbling on your side. But I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, he's living in an alternate reality already because I don't know what he's talking about. He's got a higher approval rating than he did in his last term at any point. He's got a higher approval than any Republican in their second term in history. Literally no other Republican in history has had a higher approval rating in their second term than Donald Trump. So I don't know where the stumbling part is. I'm still kind of wondering that today even, but I haven't seen this stumbling he's talking about. So I just had to point that out. Right out of the gate, we're already off to a horrible start. So let's hear some more delusion.
Democrats are just playing this wait and see and figuring out what is the best way to move forward. But I think what you see now is just this organic rising up of just regular citizens across the country that are just very
all right,
concerned.
I'm sorry, stop it again.
And feel
what regular citizens? What regular citizens are rising up? The freaking loony bins who were upset that men couldn't play in women's sports anymore and go into women's locker rooms anymore, and are those the regular citizens that are rising up, or is it that really big fat girl that was trying to get a Uber the other day and couldn't because she would have crushed the car, literally? And then she was on the Breakfast Club, and she was sitting in the chair, and she said, "You guys have a bigger seat?" And they're like, "What? A bigger seat? What?" And next thing you see is them pushing a literal sofa into the set so she can plump her fat ass down. And she's suing. She's suing the freaking I don't know if it's a chain of Uber or how that works, but she's suing Uber somehow because of fat phobia, I guess. I don't know. But I guess those are the normal citizens rising up. That's the discrimination that we're talking about there. But anyway, so yeah, I don't, once again, no idea what he's talking about, but yeah, okay, let's go, sure.
almost threatened by some of the actions that the Trump administration has taken. And they see that this is organically happening, where you have just residents around the country reaching out to Democratic elected officials and saying, what can I do to help push back against some of these
Push
wild
back.
policies that Donald Trump is trying to
What
push.
policy?
I think Donald Trump is delivering on his promises, and the majority of Americans agree that that is what is happening right now. Let's talk about this CBS poll. Trump has started his second term with a positive approval rating in the new CBS YouGov poll, and in the poll it shows that 53% say that they support the way Donald Trump is handling his job as president. 58% say that he's been effective, and of course 70% say that he is keeping his word from the campaign. I mean, what do you make of that poll? What does it really tell you?
Oh, listen.
Well, look, any poll is just a snapshot in time.
There we go.
And yes,
There's
Donald
the cope.
Trump is
There's the cope. There's the cope. We have to come up with some excuse. Got to come up with some excuse because it can't possibly be. There's no possible way in any imaginative universe out there that Donald Trump could possibly be getting approved by the American people. It's not possible. It's just not possible. So we could just scratch that off. It's got to be something else. This is just a snapshot in time where he was. This guy's a fucking moron. Anyway, here we go.
making a lot of announcements, but he's not actually putting forth policy. He's making suggestions of the United States occupying Gaza and then not following it up with any real details. He's talking about
Okay, so the Gaza thing. So that's all he said. There wasn't, the border, closing the border, reinstating remain in Mexico, and safe third country agreements. There wasn't having Tom Homan go down and get rid of people who had committed crimes that we know of and getting them arrested and getting them out of the country. There wasn't this discovery of all the fraud and wasteful spending that's been going on by our supposed elected officials that are supposed to be spending our tax dollars on us by spending them overseas on a bunch of garbage, which that's still coming up. But and there's also, of course, keeping, like I said, men out of women's sports that was just signed not that long ago, and there's been executive orders flying out of that office left and right. But yeah, he's only talked about Gaza. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, like 6 hostages, like 2 of them from Russia and the others from Gaza, or at least from the Middle East, but that were held by Hamas. All of them returned home. And when was it? That's right. That was during the Trump's administration, the new Trump administration. That's right. So, you're stupid. There's way more to it than that. And this is unreal. This is literally unbelievable. I don't believe, because this was after the Super Bowl. They were talking about the Super Bowl not long before this. So they might even talk about that in this segment. I don't know, but I can't remember for sure. But I do know that this was like very recently. So all this stuff would have, the Gaza thing, that just recently happened. So all the other stuff would have happened except for maybe the new hostage release thing. But even if that wasn't in the scenario, they were still moving to peace talks finally in the region and also in Russia now. So once again, this is absolutely stupid. This is so stupid. But here we go. More Looney Tunes land.
making Canada the 51st state.
Yeah.
And so what you
He's
have is
trolling
just
Canada
not
and Justin
even
Trudeau,
policies, not even proposals, but just fleeting thoughts that then Republicans have to try to figure out and try to back up. But yet you see there's no real game plan here. There's no strategy.
Yeah, they didn't
it's just
strategize
comes
over
out
trolling.
of,
Sorry.
the president's mouth. They just then run, scramble, and try to figure out how could this work. But what I'm
Nobody's
waiting
doing
for is
that.
actual details. We talk about
There's detail?
efficiency. We talk about cutting government waste. I've seen
Oh, here we go.
absolutely none
Here we
of
go.
that. In fact, the employees that they're talking about firing then the next day they're talking about they're going to rehire people. This is more of a loyalty
No,
test
that's not
than
what
about an
happened.
efficiency of government.
That's not
and
what
that's the real
happened at all.
concern. I think that's what Americans are waking up to and realizing
no.
that this is just a lot of talk, and there's really
No,
no
it's
plan
not a
for
lot of
us,
talk.
for the American people. It's just a plan for Donald
Oh,
Trump
don't
and
even
his
dare
people.
try to speak for the American people.
You don't think that the Trump administration has been so prepared? You know, I hear what you're saying about Trump making these claims about Gaza, but they're a negotiation tactic. They're to get other countries on board to find a real solution for Palestine. And as for, you haven't seen any waste being cut. I mean, look what Elon Musk is doing. Look at what's being exposed.
What's being exposed? I mean, he's calling.
There it is.
$millions
That's the
being
line. That's
spent.
the line.
Organization.
That's the line. Now remember that line. Remember that line, because this was the thing that really pissed me off. That was the line that was too far for me. What's being exposed? What waste are you talking about? Yada yada. That was where I was like, oh no, you didn't just say that, you son of a bitch. Like, you seriously didn't just say that. And yes, of course he did. So just remember that, because that's really going to bite this guy in the ass in just a minute. But we'll continue for now because I can't stop the video. But yeah, that here we go.
Millions of dollars
canceling
from
subscriptions to
USAID
news
going to
organizations?
DEI programs overseas? Is that how you'd like
So
your tax
we're not-
dollars to be spent?
I'd like it to be spent efficiently and effectively.
So
but
is
to
that
say
efficient
the
and
whole
effective, DEI
USA
programs overseas? That's a good waste
Possibly,
or good
but
use? Possibly.
I don't know. Possibly it is, yes. To say everything has to go, a whole government agency.
You didn't say everything
Not
had to
only
go.
They
are you
haven't said
saying
everything
it's
needs to go.
inefficient-
Yeah.
They said waste needs to go.
You have Elon Musk, the first
Here- yeah,
bro,
here's
if you
the
will,
freak out.
is saying that USAID is a criminal organization, quote unquote. He's throwing all the work of thousands of people
It's
from
amazing
our
how they
country
take it
around
literally
the world
when-
doing the work
whenever
of,
they
of
say
our
something.
mission of trying to rebuild. of trying
Meanwhile,
to have
they
a
throw out
positive
Hitler
impact
and
on the
racist
world,
and all that
and
other
he's
shit
calling
constantly.
them criminals.
Yeah, but David,
This
he
is
has the
devastating.
receipts. He's
This has a
going through the
chilling
books.
effect.
He's finding the
No.
millions of dollars
No,
that
no,
has
he's
been.
No.
No.
He hasn't.
He's pointing to one or two examples
What?
and then
What?
extrapolating
Yeah, that was
from
it.
that,
That was
a
the thing that-
whole conspiracy. And that's the
One or two examples and extracting a whole conspiracy. Once again, remember this. This is really seriously important, because when I play the next clip, I want you to remember the face of this smug asshole, and remember how sure he was when he was saying this stupid shit, because it'll be really interesting. I would love to hear him listen to the guy who's going to deliver the next message and what exactly he has to say. Because the guy delivering this message, I'm sorry, this is a guy that would not be, like, this reporter she's not even American. She doesn't know, she knows vaguely what's going on for the most part, but, it's obviously not the best matchup for a guy like this, which is why the guy probably came on. He probably knew that, this isn't going to be a really difficult interview to get through. I'll be able to state my talking points, and I'll be able to get my clips on to some leftist news shows, and I'll be a hero for the left for a few days until they realize I'm a white man that's not trans or gay. Or maybe he is gay, I don't know, but that doesn't usually amount to much anymore. You have to be in for more than that. I mean, it just doesn't, hold the same weight anymore. Once you start, cutting dicks off and all that other stuff, then the bar gets raised a little bit. But anyway, so once again, remember this, and remember this smug cunt, and how sure he was of this shit when we move on, because really interesting.
problem. You see time and time again where Elon Musk, in particularly, has pointed out one circumstance and then called a whole organization corrupt or criminal. That's wrong. That has a chilling effect, and it has a lasting,
he did it again.
detrimental effect on recruiting the best and.
So yeah, it has a chilling effect. Not at all like Merrick Garland, asking the FBI to watch school board meetings, or to have FBI agents infiltrate Catholic Mass to find those pro-lifers and and send SWAT teams to their house at 6 or 7 in the morning and come with a battering ram and body armor and M4s and full SWAT gear. That kind of thing doesn't have any kind of chilling effect. That wasn't any kind of problem at all. But Elon Musk and pointing out how much inefficiency is going on at a government agency where our tax dollars are going to, and telling us what that money's actually going to. Oh man, that's got a chilling effect. This guy is a fucking joke. Oh my God. Anyway, keep going, you idiot.
Brightest to work for our
The
country's
best and
government.
brightest, yeah.
Look, I don't think it's a conspiracy anymore. Elon Musk has been doing the work with his DOGE
Where the
teams.
fuck
More
is
and
he? At a
more
Denny's or
waste
something?
and corruption is being exposed every day, and there are several
No, that's
examples
not
of
the
that.
menu
And
on it.
I'm sure many Americans
I haven't
are.
seen a dollar amount. Can
I
you
have.
point to a dollar amount of what is actually being saved? How much money is going to go back into American taxpayers' pockets?
Probably
I can't
millions.
point to anything. Probably.
No, more than that,
Well, we
billions.
can say that all day long, but you can't actually point to a single dollar of savings. In fact, they're talking about
Oh, he is.
expanding
He's
and
a
hiring
smug
more
little shit,
people,
isn't he?
And it's only about
Oh,
who is
man.
loyal to the Trump administration. Not
Yeah,
about
that's what it
competency, not
is.
about
That's why he
effectiveness,
put
but about
RFK
loyalty.
Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard.
Agree
and,
to disagree on that one.
people that-
Homeland Security Secretary
This is
Kristi Noem has
ridiculous.
accused the
This
FBI
is
of
ridiculous.
corruption, alleging that the Bureau leaked plans for large-scale immigration enforcement operations
Oh,
in
this
the
is
Los
pretty
Angeles
sick,
area.
actually.
So on Friday,
'Cause
the
this is
LA
in
Times
California
reported that
and in
ICE
the
will
LA area,
oversee
so.
a large-scale operation targeting individuals without legal status in the US, and then cited an internal document. So Kristi Noem has condemned these leaks, saying that they really undermine federal efforts to enforce immigration laws. We know this was a big part of Donald Trump's campaign. This is what the American people voted for. Is Kristi Noem right here?
No, absolutely
Of
not.
course
She
not.
hasn't
Of course
pointed
not.
to any specific cases of corruption. She's again casting
She
this wide
just
net
gave a
of
specific-
saying that our
What?
Federal Bureau of Investigation is corrupt and that the law enforcement agents that
They
put their lives on
are.
the line are
Oh, and here comes the propaganda line. You notice how they always go to that? They never also, once again, they've never addressed the Summer of Love. They've never addressed Fiery but Mostly Peaceful. They never addressed that. They never addressed how they were the ones that wanted to defund the police. And now when you call out the leadership at FBI for, basically literally sabotaging the actual rank and file FBI agents from being able to do their job, hunting down, child exploitative practices and people smuggling humans across the border and fentanyl and stuff like that. Having Mayorkas take them off of those assignments to make sandwiches for migrants and, that didn't undermine the FBI at all. That didn't, that wasn't just smack in the face to the hardworking men and women of the FBI. And that wasn't what we heard from, the FBI whistleblowers who came forth to the Judiciary Committee in the House that talked about this either, or any of that. Those guys were all paid by the Republicans, I'm sure. Kash Patel definitely had a hand in it, I'm sure, as well. And that's all just evil Republican conspiracy theories. Once again, the conspiracy theories. But this is the real threat, saying that you shouldn't tip off a city before ICE goes in and makes arrests of illegal immigrants who have already committed serious crimes like, murder, rape, child trafficking, sex trafficking, fentanyl trafficking. That's This fucking prick, I swear, he's something else.
corrupt and working against the best interests of our country, and she has not one single thing to point to. If you had some evidence, I would be all with you.
Who leaked the documents to the LA Times?
We have no substantial evidence that any FBI agents have done anything criminal or illegal, and yet we have the
wasn't about the agents doing anything
Secretary of
illegal.
Homeland Security making allegations of
It's
criminal
about
activity of
Same
our
thing that-
federal law enforcement. It's a disgrace. It's
No,
an
about
outrage.
the-
These
he-
are
he's-
men and
he
women that
knows
put their
what's going
lives
on.
on the line to protect
Has nothing to
our
do with the
nation's
people that put
interests.
their lives
and
on
then
the
you
line. It
have
has
the
to do
federal
with the
government,
the J. Edgar
the
Hoover
Secretary
building.
of Homeland Security making allegations of corruption without any evidence.
This
That
is your modern day
wild,
Democrat right
and
here.
it does no service to the men and women in law enforcement, and it's really a disgrace. If you had evidence, put it forward. And I would be
You guys
right there
deny
behind
evidence
you.
every
I
time
would be
anybody
right
brings
there behind
anything
you,
forward,
behind
so
the
I'd shut the
secretary
fuck
to
up
say
about
yes.
that.
Then root out this corruption. Of
No,
course,
you
we
don't
need to
let
do that.
anybody
But
root
when
anything out.
When you cast a wide net and you say
You cast a
broad
wide
statements
net.
like that our FBI is corrupt, that's a huge problem, and it does nothing to help the situation. Because
I
she's
would
not
give this guy the
pointing
benefit
to
of the
any
doubt, but
one
this is too-
circumstance.
it's too
She's
obvious at
claiming
this
that
point.
This leak was demonstrated by
And-
corrupt officials with no proof. That's
With
the
no
problem.
proof,
Again,
yeah,
you see
no
this
proof.
a pattern in the Trump administration, whether it's Elon Musk or Secretary Noem, making these wild
you don't.
accusations of criminal activity with no substantiated evidence.
It's called
That's
fraud,
a real problem, and it's a
and
chilling effect that will wreak havoc and
like I
damage
said, chilling
to our
effect.
nation for years to come.
David, so you think there's no corruption in the FBI and no corruption at USAID?
Well, no, I think there possibly could be when you have large organizations,
there
thousands of
possibly could
employees.
be.
I'm sure there probably could
Yeah,
be
no
corruption.
specifics,
However,
just there
I'm not going
possibly
to
could
say
be.
that there's corruption when I have no evidence and I just have a suspicion.
Yeah.
We
The
have
fact
to be
that you don't
adults.
have any
Their words matter.
actual
They are the
evidence,
leaders of our government. So you can't just make
means you're a
accusations
fucking
because
fraud.
your plan isn't working out
And
to
you're
the
lying.
T that you expected. So you're going to find someone else to blame and make these
What is it?
wild accusations.
The-
These are
the reasoning for
serious,
this is so
libel
stupid, too. Like,
accusations that should not be just thrown
that's
out
why
there
you think
willy-nilly.
that,
and so that
if
when
there is,
actual
just to
corruption,
interrupt, sorry.
and you need evidence.
Yes, exactly. You need the evidence. So I suppose you would support then Elon Musk and his DOGE team
Oh, watch
finding
this.
the
Here
evidence
we go,
and
here we go.
exposing it for all of America and the
Absolutely.
world to see.
oh, yeah.
So are
Absolutely,
you
yes, that's
impressed
what
with
we're
what he's
hoping for.
discovered so far and you support DOGE?
Well, I support
There it
the
is.
theory of it,
The theory,
but I haven't seen
but
that.
not
The
reality.
theory of
You'd rather
efficiency.
things be kept hidden?
No, absolutely not. I didn't say that. What I said is that if you
This,
have
this
these,
woman, as much as
these-
she's
this
trying it,
evidence,
she
then
doesn't.
bring it forward.
She doesn't
Show
really
us.
know. The
That's what we
Democrats
wanna
are too
see.
big of snakes,
and that's what
and
we're
you-
hoping for. But when
if
you
you're an
have
Australian, you
situations
already are
like
not
Elon
gonna be able
Musk
to
going into the Treasury and then complaining
really,
that he wasn't given access because he doesn't have the right security clearance.
Which,
but
by
then
the way, he does
complaining
have
that that's
security clearance.
interference. That's not right. What that is doing
know what
is
he's
sending
talking
a
about
chilling
there,
effect,
actually.
so that no one will ask
there's a chilling
questions,
effect
and we will
thing again.
allow these people to have our most sensitive data, and that's what's
Our
really
most
causing the
sensitive data.
backlash. When
That's
people
the other
learn-
thing. You hear how he talks for the average American citizen right there? It's like, yeah, to have our data. No, that's not the problem, motherfucker. The problem is that you have our tax dollars, and you're not telling us what they're going to. So don't bullshit anybody else about this whole using our tax dollars, using our information, using our personal data. There's no our in this. There's no we or us in this. It's the American citizens, us, and you, the cowardly piece of shit Democrat strategists and Democrat congressmen and Senate Democrats that are literally lying through your teeth every day about what's happening. That's what's going on here. Not that because you're a fucking snake. That's why. But don't give me that bullshit. This is where I really get upset, because you're gonna sit here and act like, well, we're all in this. No, we're not in this together, motherfucker. Nobody asked us to. How about sending money to Africa to help them trans their children? Nah, I'd rather not do that, number one, because I don't believe that's a good idea. And number two, I think we could use the money here a little bit better. Okay. We're still going to do it anyway, though. We're going to just not tell them about it. Don't tell me you're fucking looking out for the American people. You send that shit overseas behind our back to fucking to make some dipshit globalist like George Soros or some shit happy with your humanitarian work that's so compassionate. Fuck off with that shit. You got American veterans dying on park benches across this country, and you're worried about transing the fucking Europeans. Go to hell. Oh, God, you fucking piece of shit. Sorry, I'm getting worked up. Calm down now. But man, it rubs me the wrong way when these people say anything that tries to equate us with them and that whole thing. It's like, no, there is no us. And you notice Republicans don't do that as much. They say the good people of this country, American people are smart. The American people, they refer to the American people. They don't say we won't let them do it. There's no we in this. You're a lying piece of shit. I'm an American citizen. We don't have any kind of anything in common. I guess, except that we're both white males, I would assume. Unless, maybe you have that ideology a little bit deeper than I thought. But I would assume that's the case. And in which case, that kind of sucks. But I still wouldn't consider you a we in anything. You know why? Because I don't do this shit of tribalist segregation based on immutable characteristics. I talk about people for what they've done. I talk about people for who they are and what they represent and what they believe. Not for their physical characteristics, unless they're some fat fuck trying to get onto an Uber and then trying to sue the Uber because the driver was like, no, I'm not going to let you ruin my car. Because unfortunately, we do have an obesity epidemic, and it's become so out of control, and it's so off the rails, you can't even accept when a doctor tells you you might be a little too heavy for your own health. That's considered a hate crime now. They literally had a policy in certain doctors' offices around this country where you weren't allowed to ask the question or bring up a concern about someone's weight anymore because it was considered fat shaming. That's where we are in the health system. So that's why people like RFK Jr. got nominated to, HHS. But once again, this moron has a totally different set of conclusions based on the evidence that's been put forward. And it's pretty pathetic. But once again, like, I really don't. There's no excuse anymore. You're not this stupid. So you're either lying or you're lying. You're lying. There's no other way around it. You're lying. So yeah, and that's why I can't stand it. Don't drag the American people into your lies. Don't drag the taxpayers into your lies. The taxpayers. Once again, taxpayers didn't even unanimously agree to fund the abortions that you use at Planned Parenthood. Like every opportunity to help pay for abortions, like with the PPP loans, that was another great strategy. But once again, this whole thing is the same tired bullshit where you realize, wow, they are literally incapable of ever seeing faults in themselves, in their strategies, in their philosophy, in their ideology, in anything that they do. They're incapable of introspection, and they have no other move except, as I said before, double down. They have one button, and it's double down, double down, double down. They can't possibly ever admit defeat, admit they're wrong, say they're sorry, do anything like that. It's always double down. And that's, once again, what you see here, because this guy is literally trying to act like Elon Musk. Oh, he doesn't know it. I'm sorry. I would, what have you done in your life? Anything like Elon? I highly doubt it, but that's not even really that relevant, aside from the fact that you call into question his freaking loyalty to the country and his freaking ability to want to do something helpful for his fellow citizens. I mean, he's doing this pretty selflessly, I'd say. And the guy, I mean, you could agree with him or disagree with him, but you can't really honestly say in good faith that the guy is doing something with bad motives. The guy's motives are definitely not in the wrong place. So, once again, it's just leftists demonizing their opponents for hypocritical shit that they've done 20 times worse and 20 times more than anyone on the right ever could imagine. But anyway, at least in this day and age, ever since MAGA started, oh man. And that's why they hate this so much, because the MAGA party, the MAGA movement, whatever you want to call it, started a whole new breed of conservative voters. And that's why, more Hispanics moved over to the Republican Party than ever before. They've attracted more black voters. They've attracted more of every demographic. Why? Because they don't sound like lunatics, and they actually sound like they know what's happening, and they actually speak with an assertive voice that tells you they know what they're talking about. That tells you they know that they have some kind of solution that they know will be effective. How effective? We're not sure, but at least it'll be some kind of progress. Whereas the Democrats, well, they just want to spend more. How's that going to help? The only people who think that's going to help are people who are absolute nihilists and complete morons who are just like, oh yeah, money, 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 give me the more money. So Elon, once again, here's one example. You want to talk about some waste and abuse. How about the fact that Elon mentioned the other day how many people that are over 150 years old that are getting Social Security checks in this country? How about that one? I can't remember what the dollar amount attached to it was, but man, it was up there. It was in the hundreds of, at least in the tens of millions. Might have been in the hundreds of millions. So there's a little bit for you. And yet this guy's sitting here with... Anyway. That really pissed me off. I'm sorry. Calm down. We'll get back to this now.
That their sensitive data, their social security numbers, their tax information is being out there without any safeguards. That's the concern. And
you wanted to give it to Alejandro Mayorkas, you fuck.
Is standing in the way of government efficiency and cracking down on waste, fraud, or abuse is absolutely wrong.
But
that is not the point.
They're protesting against it.
No one is saying that. No, what I'm protesting against is the fact that they're going in and making these accusations with no proof. If you had the proof, show us, and I think everyone would be there right in line. But when you make these wild accusations that the whole USAID program, this whole government agency, is a corrupt organization, quote unquote, that's too hard to swallow. That's unbelievable.
David,
and if you had the information, then provide that. But that's not what's being provided.
Yes, it absolutely is. David, just finally, has the Democrats, do you think, have they really learned any lessons from the election?
I haven't watched it since last night.
I don't know that they have.
No, they haven't learned.
Well, I think that they have. I think the difference is you have a Democratic Party, a big tent, different
and here we go again too, the big
on
tent.
how to best move the country forward. Juxtapose that to what's the Republican Party, which has really become the party of Donald Trump. You can see in that there's no real ideology or principles guiding the party right now. Because if there were, you would take someone like Donald Trump and say, well, wait, you flip-flopped on so many different issues. You're talking about isolationism. You're talking about preventing foreign wars. Well, now you're instigating and you're saying we're going to occupy Gaza. We're going to go in and maybe
that war has already started and is almost over.
What
are you talking about?
Like a 180 for the Republican Party, and it's hard to even understand what
you're
the
war
Republican
hawks
Party
now. What are you
stands
talking
for,
about?
other than being the rah-rah support cheerleader for Donald Trump. So I think that's the difference. And yes, is the Democratic Party perfect? No, by no means. And yes, are they trying to find a footing in this political climate and message to people in the United States? Yes. But I think the difference is when the dust settles here, you'll see that the Democratic Party actually stands for something, and the GOP is starting to fade away on principles, on character, on what they stand for, and is becoming unrecognizable.
David Carlucci, we have to leave it there. Thank you again for joining us on Power Hour.
You got it. Thank you.
Wow.
And that...
I forgot how fucking offensive that was. Jesus Christ. Okay. So, I promised it, and here we go. Let me pull this up because that son of a bitch really got me worked. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be this irrationally angry, but man, that got me angry for some reason, and so I think I'll just have to go ahead and follow through with exactly what I said I was going to do, which is bring on someone who's going to tell you the actual numbers that he was asking for. What were those numbers? Not just the numbers, what the numbers are for. What these dollar amounts are going to. So yeah, this is an important one, especially for that guy, because it's. So here we go. This is perfect. Yeah, as a perfect guy to deliver this message to. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Rand Paul.
The committee will come to order. Today we are going to dive into reckless and wasteful spending of our federal government, particularly when it comes to foreign aid. The United States should not be the sugar daddy for the entire world, especially not for countries and organizations who act contrary to our nation's beliefs. Our country is $36 trillion in debt, yet we continue to send billions of dollars overseas, often funding projects that are not just useless, but in many cases actively harmful. Taking the path to fiscal responsibility is often a lonely journey, but thanks to Elon Musk and DOGE, they've brought to light the waste that I've been highlighting for over the last decade.
Yeah,
Every
Rand
year
Paul
I
has been
release
talking
my
about this
Festivus report
constantly.
to expose the ridiculous spending
Remember
of the
the
federal
Thanos
government.
gloves thing?
And this past year was no exception. I uncovered over $1 trillion in government waste, with the State Department and USAID being some of the worst offenders. Let me give you just a few examples of what these unelected bureaucrats are spending your hard-earned money on.
This guy wanted the numbers. Here we go.
$4.8 million went to Ukraine's public affairs office in Kiev to fund social media influencers. Instead of protecting our own border, $2.1 million was sent to Paraguay to enhance their border security. USAID also funded a group of Ukrainian women-led designers to travel to the Paris Fashion Show. I don't know about you, but I'd imagine Ukrainian women have more important things to worry about than appearing in the Paris Fashion Show.
Yeah, I would say so too.
USAID spent $2 million on transgender surgeries, hormone therapy, and gender-affirming care in Guatemala.
And here we go.
$3 million was spent to promote girl-centric climate action in Brazil.
Yeah, here we go.
I'd love to picture what a conversation about girl-centered climate action looks like. It's like, hey, Barbie, do you know what girl-centered climate change is?
It would be probably
Since when do we believe arguments need to be tailored for girls to understand? How insulting to women at large that they think there are special arguments for girls to understand that are different than boys. $25,000 to fund a transgender opera in Colombia. Was nobody in Colombia willing to buy a ticket? USAID spent $32,000 in Peru to create a comic featuring a trans hero to address social and mental health issues. What does that have to do with diplomacy? $20,000 to fund a DEI program for a drag theater in Ecuador. $20 million was spent to produce a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. USAID spent $6 million to promote a project boosting sustainable tourism in Egypt. I guess the U.S. is now the travel agent for the entire world, since they spent $50 million on Tunisia's tourism, even though it's already one of the most visited countries in Africa. USAID gave $87.9 million to help Afghans farm, and incidentally, farm poppy, the plant from which opium is extracted.
Dig, dig, dig.
As of 2021, Afghanistan supplied 90% of the world's heroin. I thought the saying in the U.S. was just say no to drugs. How about we just say no to wasteful foreign aid? $70,000 for a live musical event to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility in Ireland.
We all heard of that one.
State Department paid $330,000 to compile a disinformation index to blacklist conservative media outlets.
Oh, that's really useful.
USAID funneled over $54 million to EcoHealth Alliance.
Oh, boy.
Funding the very organization linked to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the likely origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. Disgraceful. $15 million was awarded to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan to distribute oral contraceptives and condoms. There's
I heard
still a
about that one.
$3 billion fund for Afghan
So when they rape
reconstruction
women, they
that
can
have
at least
tried
have
to
a
take that
condom.
money
They
to
won't probably wear
pay
it,
for
but,
other
you know,
things
they
that the
have 'em.
government is spending money on, and yet there's been resistance by the other side to deplete that fund and say, we're done funding things in Afghanistan. This is just the tip of the iceberg. These
So,
are
yeah,
taxpayer
that's it.
dollars
Real quick.
being used to fund ideologically misguided, ineffective, and unnecessary projects, thanks to the blundering bureaucracy.
So the guy wanted numbers. There you go. And as he said, those are taxpayer dollars. That was funded by all the American citizens that pay their taxes and, you know, just would like a little bit of say in how their government's run. And instead, we get bureaucracies that hide the money going to this kind of bullshit, and some clown that thinks that it's Elon Musk's fault. Yeah. I didn't think it was asking too much for, you know, just a little bit of a return on investment for the whole tax thing, and that, you know, expecting your government to do what they say. They always are saying more transparency. We'll be transparent until it becomes time to actually be transparent. And then they're like, no, it's just a conspiracy theory. I swear, every time I hear that word now, I just go, God, like, have you been paying attention to the way that word has been used for the last 10 years and what has become of all those conspiracies? Because I'm going to start believing conspiracy now means something that's verifiably true. Seems like every time somebody says something's a conspiracy, we find out in just a short amount of time that actually, well, what do you know? That turned out to be actually true after all. And especially if it has to do with Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form, it's probably true, and it's not a conspiracy theory. But this is like, anyway, go ahead. Go ahead. I don't think he says much else.
While our own citizens struggle to put food on the table.
Yeah.
This is not what our government was designed to do. The U.S. government is not a charity, and it should not be doling out cash to foreign organizations, some of which actively oppose the United States with no oversight. And we don't have the money to give. We're borrowing the money we send. We need to ask a simple question. Why are we borrowing money to send money overseas? Even if USAID eliminated the crazy left-wing grants for trans operas, it still makes no sense to borrow money to then turn around and send it overseas. Borrowing money to send as charity is like the worker who has no money left after paying for their food, rent, and gas, saying, oh, well, I see this homeless person. I have such great sympathy. I'll go to the bank and I'll borrow $1,000 to give to this person. That's what we are doing. We can't pay for our own, and we are borrowing the money we send overseas. That money could be used to pay down our $36 trillion debt and take care of the American people, the very people who actually pay these taxes in the first place.
Exactly.
It's time for a real change. America should not continue to be
These
the
are the
world's
people with
piggy
no
bank.
ideas, ladies and gentlemen.
It's time to end the waste of foreign aid and end the bureaucracy and for once do what's right by the American taxpayer.
And so anyway, in the same way that the FBI is not, you know, this evil organization where every single member is and every single agent is equally accused when someone says the FBI is doing something it shouldn't be doing. What they're speaking to is the structure. What they're speaking to is the whole of the agency. What they're speaking to is the purpose for it, and how that's been completely skewed in a different direction than it was intended, or maybe in the FBI's case, not so much so, but at least in the way that people were expecting it was supposed to function. And essentially, in the case of USAID, to anyone who even knew the agency existed, which not many people did, I think people probably would have guessed, if anything, that it's going to third world countries that are starving and impoverished to the point of being nearly uninhabitable, when In actuality, no. We just saw exactly what the money is going for and can more or less guess at the purpose why. And in the same regard, the FBI, the good agents that are actually out in the field catching bad guys and doing what they're supposed to be doing, like Steve Friend, like, man, what was that guy's name? Marcus Allen, like Garrett O'Boyle, like those guys. They got shafted by the FBI, and by the FBI, once again, so that the little prick that was on the news could understand. I mean the leadership. I mean the DC field office. I mean the leadership class. I mean the people in charge. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what everyone is talking about when they talk about FBI overreach. They're not talking about agents. They're not talking about people who are concerned for their jobs. They're not talking about people who are catching bad guys. They're talking about the bureaucrats in charge of the agency, of which Kash Patel actually has some fantastic ideas on what to do about that. But they hate Kash Patel because they want the FBI to stay the way it is, because they like it when they inform people in Southern California that, hey, there's going to be an ICE raid, so you better hide your illegals. This is absolutely ridiculous. And for this fucking piece of shit to get up there and try and explain away this shit by using the same old conspiracy theory fucking language and the idea that... But this is the problem, and this is what I'm getting at with the whole heart of this episode today. These are the things that the American people need to understand about what's happened, because I've heard too many people that just don't understand that this is how nefarious it is. Yes, this is how bad it's gotten, people. This is how out of control this government has become. They expect you to eat this shit and smile and thank them for it, because it doesn't matter how much they overreach. It doesn't matter how much they abuse your trust. They want more. They want more, and if they run the country into bankruptcy and destroy it, they're going to be on their private jet while you're going to be here, basically in the equivalent of a third world country and have nothing left. Because they don't give a shit about the taxpayers, and they don't give a shit about the people that it's even going to. They're trying to message to the other elites of the world that, hey, this is the new program. Get on board and we'll live forever. I don't know what their end goal is. I don't care what their end goal is. I'm more interested in making sure these people don't pull the wool over the eyes of everybody anymore, because I'm so sick of it. People get so confused by the fact that these people go out and just blatantly lie. They just tell, and they can't... Understandably, they can't fathom the fact that people that they have entrusted in a party they've supported their whole life in some cases has gone this far off the rails. But, you don't have to be Republican. You don't have to be anything that, you don't believe in. But just know what's happened to your party. If you are somebody who's a Democrat and you are still under the spell that these people are actually doing something that'll help you, like Chuck Schumer shouting, "We will win, we will win." You know what that means? That means we will keep spending your money. We will keep spending your money. You have no say over what we do with it. And we're going to get it. And here's the thing, too. When Donald Trump says he's going to cut taxes for, it wants to pass tax reform, cut taxes like he did in his first term. You guys remember that? Because I do. I remember what happened. The cost of everything went down. You know why? Because when business owners have less taxes and less things that they have to spend money on, they can lower the cost of doing business. Or at the bare minimum, they can keep it at the same level. And usually that means they can pay their employees a little bit more. Now, we've been on a very bad downward trend for a long time. And we've tried things in certain states, like this stupid one, like raising the minimum wage. And that did such a good job that a bunch of fast food industries and a bunch of smaller businesses and companies with a large number of employees, they all had to fire a bunch of people because they couldn't pay that many people that much money. It actually destroyed some businesses. It actually closed some businesses that had been open for generations because morons who shout the loudest decided minimum wage needs to go up. Okay, how are we going to pay for that? They don't get the idea that these nice slogans don't mean shit in practice. So ultimately, I just, because like I said, I've known people in my own family who, and now I also know some people in my own family who thankfully have watched this shit and understood exactly what's happening. They get it. They totally get it. And they are as completely united on the same wavelength as I am on these things now. I mean, you know, not all of them even support Trump, but they get what's going on. And some of them do, some of them don't. But the point is that you can't just keep doing what you... So here's the thing. The modern Democrat Party needs to either... It's got a couple of choices. It's going to lose the rest of the elections it's going to have, hopefully, as long as they keep up talks like this, because nothing is going to come out of this. Nothing good. We've tried it now. We've tried open borders. We've tried the higher taxes. We've tried everything that they wanted to try, and it didn't work. In fact, it all went so badly that everything, murder rates went up, rate of illegal immigrants went up, cost of living went up, cost of housing went up, cost of gas went up, cost of energy went up, cost of water went up, wildfires everywhere. FEMA isn't able to help everybody, so they cut out people who have Trump signs in their lawn. Yes, that actually happened. This whole thing has fallen completely apart. So once again, you don't have to support Trump, but this is the Democratic Party, and you're going to have to understand, just sit it out even. Do whatever you got to do until one of two things happen. Number one, they start pushing some actual sane policies. Just the basics. Close the damn border. Don't tax people into oblivion. Don't treat business corporations that are successful like they're the devil. Those are a few, fundamental concepts that would help you. Or number two, and this is the one I think is going to have to happen, because there's too many people that are just so corrupt, there's no trusting them. They're just going to need to actually recognize that you're going to need to clean house and get a whole new group of people to head your party. Because the people that are in charge of it now, I mean, you got AOC who calls Elon Musk stupid. Now, that's something you would have guessed would have been a joke or a meme. No, that actually happened. And she actually laughs about it, while she tries to explain why he's an idiot and sounds like a complete fucking idiot. It's delusional. It's so freaking, it's so bizarre that it's almost not even funny. It really isn't funny. It's disturbing. How did some dumb, ridiculous bartender woman get this delusional and think she's that right? To call out a guy who's been more successful than she could ever dream of, no matter what position she had. Which, by the way, too, once again, Elon's not making any money. You know what else? Donald Trump, in his first term and this term, all the money that he got for being president, he gave it away as charity. And he's doing the same thing this time, I think. Because he doesn't need the money to be president. It's a salary that's really small compared to what he would make. So he gave it away to charity. Now, the state of New York would love to bankrupt him and put him, deprive him of all of his money and all of his assets. But I don't think that's going to happen because he's beat them every step of the way. But and I just don't get the fact that, when you look at the American citizens today and you catch them in the places where they're not overly political, there is a sense that even without knowing why, things are finally feeling a little bit better, a little bit lighter, a little bit less stressful. And I'll tell you why. That's because you don't have nothing but bad decisions coming out. So once again, this is just a suggestion and warning, because it's obvious where I stand. I'm a guy who's kind of center right at this point. I'm disillusioned entirely to the fact that the left went off the rails entirely, and there's no going back. I mean, at this point, they'd already kill me probably before they look at me, because I'm a white male, so I'm probably the closest thing to a demon on earth that will ever exist. But aside from that fact, I've supported the actual devil in their eyes. I voted for the devil in their eyes. They would hate my guts, and they'd try to demonize everything I ever said. And that's the thing about the Democratic Party now, is they have to have a villain. That's the only way they keep getting away with this. It's why they loved Facebook and social media and Twitter for so long. That was their vector for, finding people's, history of anything they said, to pick out one dumb thing they said when they were a kid and suddenly accuse them of every negative thing under the sun. As long as they can control the message, they usually tend to persuade people out of either fear or concern or out of their own good nature even. They're very good at that type of manipulation. That's why I said earlier, and, maybe you don't believe it yet, but just keep watching. Just keep watching, I'm telling you. And notice the things that I've pointed out here today. Joseph Goebbels would blush, I swear. I don't think he could ever have hoped to be as good a propagandist as someone like Dan Goldman or Jamie Raskin. And these are people that are sick. They're absolutely sick, and that's what I mean when they need to clean house. They need to get rid of all people like this that do nothing but pretend to stand up for those people that are the needy and the poor and the people who need the most help, when in reality they are essentially the type of people that I've heard Jordan Peterson describe this phenomena. It was something that came from I can't remember the writer. It's a Russian writer, it was a Russian writer. Came out during the Soviet period. That said, is a group of people that, when describing like the Communist Party of the Soviets, that these weren't people that actually that loved the poor and wanted to help the poor. They were just people that hated the rich, and it was out of envy and out of spite. It had nothing to do with helping poor people. It had to do with trying to slight rich people. And that's what the modern Democrat Party is today. They don't care about you. They don't care about anyone who they claim to be, someone who is less privileged. No. These are people that just hate the rich with a passion. As Adam Carolla has described, they're people that, instead of admiring hard work and people who achieve something, they just want to smash people's windows and destroy their cars because they have an expensive house or an expensive car. It has nothing to do with the fact that they hate rich people. It has, or that they care about poor people. They just want to ruin rich people because they feel they deserve it. It's borderline sociopathy, but I mean, it's what happens when you got people that let their own power go unchecked and actually come up with plans to, power by any means necessary. So that's unfortunately the state of where things are at. And until somebody can correct the ship, like I said, just my only advice is, bite your lip, hold on. It's not the end of the world. It'll be over before you know it. And we'll be back to the next election cycle. Just, I beg you, please see past this. Look at all the things that have been said. Look at how it was supposedly Trump that was a Russian asset, when in actuality, who was the one getting Ukrainian money from oligarchs and getting money from China and getting money? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was the Bidens. I mean, every single thing has been proven to be a lie, and usually more reflective of them than anyone else. And it continues to keep happening right after they lose an election, and they can't even grasp it still. They still don't get it. And at this point, I'd say it's hopeless. They're never going to get it. So like I said, there's only one thing you can do, and that's just, try to help identify the people who actually are able to adhere to those old school principles of the Democrats, the types that were adopted by more conservative types now. And then we'd have two parties that agree on at least a few things. We can fight about all the other stuff. That's fine. That's stuff we've been fighting over since the founding. But stuff like this fundamental stuff that we're fighting over now, no, it won't work. So, geez, I better stop. That's it for me today. Man, I went on for a while today. I knew this was going to be a long one because it was going to be a lot of stuff to say. But I'm back, baby. Ha ha! I'm sorry. No, but I am feeling better now that I did an actual proper episode. Despite the length and despite the subjects being maybe a little intense for the second show back. Hey, what can I say? This one was something that really struck a nerve, obviously. So, thank you guys very much. And as I've said before, I'm not going to tell you to smash the like button and hit the notification, hit subscribe. You don't have to hit anything. You don't have to smash anything. Just, if you like the video, give it a like. And if you'd like to see the show, I'm going to try to be on earlier than this, but I am sticking to the schedule now of Monday through Saturday, and I'm trying to keep it. I'll get back to you on a time expected to be at this point. Let's see, Pacific, where I'm at, it would be either between noon and 1 o'clock at this point. I was a little late today, but schedule usually. Like I said, I'm trying really desperately, but I've got a bunch of things I'm trying to work on, so I can't guarantee I'm gonna be on time. I don't want to make false promises this time around. I want to make sure I stick with it. So, but subscribe if you like to watch the podcast. Like I said, podcast. So I keep letting that slip. I was holding off, but I am also in the works for making this show into podcast form. Stay tuned for that to become a reality. But in the meantime, the live stream itself will be live every day, Monday through Saturday. And I guess on Eastern time, that would be, let's see, that'd be between 3 or 4 p.m. would likely be when it starts. So, and I guess if you're in the center, mid-USA, that would be 1 to 2. Yeah. Yep. I think I got that right. Anyway, but that'll do it for me. Like I said, you don't have to smash anything. You don't have to hit anything. Just go ahead and click that little, like button if you like it. And if you would like to see the show, just subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. And once again, man, the turnout for the last couple episodes, I was kind of stunned because I came back after almost a month in exile nearly, and I'm back and I'm getting numbers like I hadn't done anything. So, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. So until tomorrow, my name's Corey Dean. Thank you so much for watching Frame Advantage. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Peace.
Now, I can't read it. There's no words on it. Okay. There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out. What is